the same product 2 years later isn't going to be solving that problem well anymore.
Someone is always wearing the product hat.
We always forget this. Any customer's last great experience sets their bar.
Let's start with an idea.
It seems simple, but this is one of the most difficult parts of being a product leader. Before we jump in, there are two topics we want to cover: problem discovery, and then we'll dive into the meat of the conversation, which is how AI can help supercharge your processes.
So let's start by talking about something that we like to refer to as the product journey, right? So great products, unfortunately, don't just magically appear. And as product leaders, as much as we'd like, we don't generally just think them up one day and have it manifest into great products the next. That starts with an idea, and then it typically goes through an iterative validation and refinement process, ultimately resulting in a product, right? Or maybe not. Sometimes we decide that the product is not worth building, or maybe it's a feature that you were contemplating and you decide, not to add that feature or prioritize something else, right? Someone is always wearing the product hat and responsible for navigating through this journey.
Taking a step back, in today's hyper innovative world, it's so fast paced, you can be overtaken pretty quickly. And one of the things I've learned is any customer's last great experience sets their bar. So they have an experience with a brand that is just fantastic. They expect all other brands to be as amazing as that previous experience. So product is really all about keeping that pulse on your sentiment and customer sentiment, and making sure that you have this continuous process of discovery where there are hotspots, pain points, and making sure that you don't lose your market. To be a company that consistently delivers great products and experiences, you really have to always keep in tune with your customer experience, your customer journey, how well you're solving the problem. And that changes. You could have solved a problem really well, 2 years ago, but the same product 2 years later isn't going to be solving that problem well anymore. At its core, this is around product discovery, and this focuses on identifying and validating market opportunities so that you can create business value, whether it's enhancing an existing product or creating a new product. And the goal is you want to make sure that your product deeply resonates with your customers. Defining the problem. What is the problem? What's the pain point? Hypothesizing what the outcome would be, coming up with ideas of how you would solve that pain point or that problem that exists in the market. Think about how you're going to measure success. What does success look like? Because that's going to be your way of determining how well you've actually resonated with customers or how well you have solved the problem. It seems simple, but this is one of the most difficult parts of being a product leader. Be customer obsessed. Doing things like talking often to existing customers, potential users and customers, having a process where you're doing formal interview surveys. If you have great ideas, having teams prototyping and just kind of ideating, trying to find what is the next potential problem or new solutions. When we were building out the return product team at Shopify and building out the return product, it seems like something that is just everyday. It's an everyday solution. I go somewhere and I say, I want to return this thing. They tell me yes or no. They take the thing, they give me my refund back. But in this case, we're building this for a commerce platform that powers so many different businesses. And those businesses also have their partners involved in the ecosystem. One business could be doing their own return process. Another could be using a third-party application or a third-party logistics provider to provide the return. So we created a group where we invited those players. We invited return apps like Happy Returns, Loop Returns. We invited three 3PLs, third-party logistics or warehouse providers. We also worked with the Amazon and the Google marketplaces teams. The reason why we did this is we had to think about the return problem, not simply from the user experience, the end user consumer experience, but also the B2B or internal user, the partners who would be using the Shopify platform. and try to make those APIs as agnostic as possible. We spend time defining the clear needs or defining clear needs for each user group. For one user, it was the data. If they were a platform that was integrating with Shopify, they needed the data to flow into their system so they could power their workflows. In other cases, it was merchants who needed access to business rules so that they could configure, hey, you can return this product 30 days after purchase, for example. So really being very specific of who the user was and their primary goals and needs to define and design the API to make sure that it was nimble, agnostic. And as you're building a platform, you want to build it in a way that it can grow as opposed to it being limiting in the future. So also thinking about future users was one of the things that we did as well.
So who has this problem that you're trying to solve? How many of these people or organizations are there? Right? How do they currently deal with the problem? If we can solve the problem in a better way, what is that worth to them, right? And what do potential solutions to the problem look like?
So moving from problem discovery into sort of like solution mode, this is meant to be really an iterative, user-centric, collaborative process. If you're doing this well, you're not doing this in a silo, you're involving a lot of players because you're trying to discover and make sure that you have the right problem defined and your hypotheses about the problem and how to solve it are correct. So one of my favorite techniques that I use and I, encourage my teams to use is empathy mapping or customer journey mapping. This is the process where you visualize, you put yourself in the seat of somebody who's going to be using your solution, whether to build something on top of it or a consumer. Visualize their experience and identify how they feel going through each problem space as you're defining that customer journey. So defining the problem, when we're doing research on returns, this was 2-3 years ago, the returns process, the feedback that we got from lots of customers was, and lots of research, too many clicks, too many hoops to get to actually initiating the return. So that was a problem, right? We defined that as something that we needed to solve. And then we started hypothesizing on what that could look like. And so interestingly enough, your serial returners, the customers who return lots of products, are actually your best customers. So we found that a bad return experience will turn a good customer into a bad customer. And a simple and easy return will actually turn detractors into promoters or create those serial return customers and best customers in this case, because they keep coming back to buy because they're confident in your return process, which is something that we dug into research to figure out. And then when we started validating the solution, one of the areas we discovered as well was it was very difficult for some customers, especially in nowadays when you don't really have printers in the home, to complete a return experience because some of the returns experiences were requiring them to print a label, tape it on, get a box, tape it on the box. They've just thrown out their boxes that morning with the recycling trash that came through the morning. And then they've completely forgot that they had a return. So they're like, oh, now I have to wait to get another box to put this in, and then I have to print the label. And also we talked a little bit about how to validate that solution. And really the solution was don't make them box it, don't make them print a label. And you see that now if you drop off your returns at Staples or Whole Foods or some of the return depots today, you don't really need to do that. And then we measured success. So using merchant data and using return rates, right? We had defined what that success is. And one of our data scientists at the time was amazing, built a dashboard to kind of track customer returns with conversion and repeat customers. And so this is how we're able to tell how we were helping solve the return problem for merchants because their customers were delighted and they were then coming back and being a repeat customer. So again, define the problem, hypothesize, validate, and make sure you know how to measure success. So now we dive into the meat of this is in this space, how can we leverage AI? So Satoshi, I am so excited that you're talking about this because I know this is your career. This is what you do. You're in data and analytics. And now with AI, you have some powerful solutions under your portfolio. So let's dive into the next session and talk about AI and how we can use AI to empower this problem discovery and solutioning.
Everywhere we look, all we hear about is AI, how it's going to change the way we do just about anything. Like a lot of us use it now at work, right? I mean, a lot of people use ChatGPT.
I feel like there's a lot of buzz today around AI, and it being kind of like the easy button that can make and can help teams be more efficient. There's definitely not a shortage of opinions of where teams can apply AI.